It's Spoiler in Time, ladies and gentlemen. On today's Spoiler in Time, we will spoil Episode 5, Season 7 of The Shield. We will spoil Episode 7, Season 2 of Rick and Morty. We will finally, after a long 2-week wait, 3-week wait, depending on how you look at it, spoil the finale of Mr. Robot. And I'm Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood. We will crown the movie draft champions.
That's right. Joining us for Spoiler in Time, we have Team Cordkillers. We got Malongo and Christy. And let's go ahead. Let's jump into the movie draft. Make it official. Start the bumper.
Yes.
It's all part of our plan.
Wow.
We wanted Cordkillers to be represented by the best, so we got outsiders.
I was going to say, you just don't lose at all because it's your team.
Yeah, man.
I know.
So we talked about it a little bit in the
Well,
main
that's all
show.
the time we have.
It's official. You guys are the champions. Can you, and you mentioned a bit about your strategy. Is there any other tips that you want to give going forward?
Cross your fingers.
Yeah, because you had a loose idea. You did not expect Jurassic World to be the outstanding, bar none champion.
No.
You just figured that it was a reasonably good bet, right?
Yeah. I mean, I forget, I had a cheat sheet that I shared with Christy, and we went over it pretty intensely before the draft, but I knew that there were a couple movies at the top that we just weren't going to get. So we really just tried to look for those B+, A- movies that I felt like would do well, and we just got lucky. Really.
I'm not even kidding. I knew that was your strategy because it was very similar to ours with DTNS. And when you went for Jurassic World and bid it up to 42, it was above my estimate of what it was going to make and what it was worth.
Right.
And I thought, ha, we
I
screwed
got
them. Now they don't have any money left.
That's amazing.
Well, that's what's
Wow.
funny too is and then when Minions came around, I remember bidding on Minions, and I remember Malongo and I kind of going back and forth, and we were both bidding on it, and I kind of went a little bit above, I think, what he wanted, and we got it, and he's like, "No, we only have like $6 left." And I was like, "No, it's fine. It'll be fine."
That's one of the
Trust me.
weird
It's okay.
dynamics that the summer draft has taken on now that we do teams, because in a bidding situation with both people have access to the nuclear button, it makes for some weird internal moments. We also, Carl brings up a really good point. We should give a hat tip to Movie League Mike
Yes.
for his amazing
definitely.
crumdom analysis posts on the Diamond Club subreddit. Movie League Mike writes these amazingly detailed posts, and as somebody who, obviously is a player in the draft, really deeply enjoys diving in on those. Thank you so
And they're
much.
hilarious. They're
Yep.
so funny. He's great.
If you are going to miss those crumdom, that voice, that amusing tone, check out dailytechnewsshow.com every Saturday when Movie League Mike is wrapping up the week's tech news in exactly the same way.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you, folks, for playing. Thank you, Team Cordkillers, for 1,007,000. Yeah, for making all that money and winning. Good
Okay,
job.
Tom.
Hey, man, so I guess we're going to jump into some triage here. Spoiler alert, all of the emails that we received about content this week were about Mr. Robot. So Christy was saying you were on the fence and you weren't watching Mr. Robot, and then it took one fact to get you on board. You saw Christian Slater as Mr. Robot, and now you don't want to be spoiled on it, right?
Yes, that's correct. Well, I heard you guys talking about it, and I'm watching so many things and doing things and didn't get around to watching it. And as you're talking, I'm looking at IMDb and I'm like, how did I not know this? It went somewhere. I don't know where, but yes. So don't
Okay,
spoil
well,
it.
here,
USA.
turn down your audio. We'll wave when it's time for you to come
Okay.
back, and then we won't spoil you.
I
Cool.
think she's really going to like it.
I think she's going to love it. I think it's the best freaking show.
Alan wrote in and said, I've got one for you to consider. And again, spoiler alert. We are in spoilering Mr. Robot with these emails. What if Elliot is Tyrell? Very few people interact with both of them, maybe just Gideon. He could be living a double life, Tyrell and his father being flip sides of the same coin. Then Tyrell's wife is either another figment or just as likely she knows about Elliot's condition and uses it to her advantage, which is why she spoke to him in the foreign language she speaks with Tyrell.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was almost disappointed to get this email because I thought I was so clever for having that exact same thought. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this. I don't think that is the case, but I do think that they shot the scene where Elliot interacts with Tyrell's wife. I do believe they shot that exactly trying to intimate that, because if you watch that scene again through the lens of this is a woman who knows that he has multiple personalities and doesn't know who's home. She walks home, sees her husband banging on the door to get in, and then watch that scene again, and you'll realize all of her questions are carefully phrased. She's like, "Can I help you?" or "What are you looking for?" And then he says, "Where's Tyrell?" And then if Tyrell's the one saying, "Where's Tyrell?"
It's
then
a
of course
it's a
she'd
lady
say,
in a
"I
can.
don't know."
It's a lady in a candle situation. Like, we watched it. Both Brian and I watched it today, and you could definitely make it work with that theory. There are other theories that work better with it, though. Like, it's not perfect, but it's a little bit like Magic Bullet, kind of like, well, if you look, the grassy knoll, it's that kind of experience. I don't think it's the right theory for many other reasons, but it's intriguing. And that,
I hope it's not, because down the rabbit hole we go. That's crazy. I didn't even think about that, and now my mind is blown.
Just for grins, and again, could consider this a fan conspiracy theory, but just for grins, watch that scene again, and it is remarkable.
And do it for this reason, even if you're like, that's a stupid theory, right? Do it for this reason. It shows how well written Mr. Robot is, where you can take slices of it and get all kinds of different perspectives and meanings out of it.
Well, and
this is a fractally written show.
Yes. Well, it is an extremely difficult thing to keep your audience off balance for so long, season after season, without finally you throw your hands up and decide the whole world's made of rubber and it's stupid. There's always stakes, but they always figure out the right way to just kind of throw you a curveball, little cattywampus. And I think Fractal is a good way to put it, where it's like it's the same similar themes over and over again, but as we get in tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
Tim Mathis says, just a quick suggestion. I was listening to an artist with Christian Slater and Malik, and Christian Slater expresses that he wishes he was able to talk about spoilers for Mr. Robot. Have you thought of trying to get some of the famous people in the shows on Spoilerin Time?
Sure. We thought about it a lot.
We had a
put
natural...
myself to sleep with that
we had a natural opportunity to do exactly that. Romany Malco was in Mad Dogs, and because he's a friend of the show and the friend of ours, we had him on, and it was exquisite. It was a real blast. I don't know why it never occurred to us to reach out and invite people to come out.
I think to test whether Christy is actually muted or not, Malongo, we'll make sure that you're on the show when we get Christian Slater.
Nice.
I'm kidding. Obviously, we would make sure Christy Gaines gets on that show. We actually get Christy.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
in fact, if you guys, I'm not going to say Twitter bomb them, but casually reach out on Twitter and just start some feelers.
All right, and then Carlos says Mr. Robot was a triumph. Everything from the plot down to the performance was top drawer. What really put it over the top of other well-told and acted dramas was the music and cinematography. Those elements were so vital to the story and the show itself that you could not have one without the other. A level that I had only seen one other time before from a UK drama called Utopia. Please see this series drama from Channel 4. When I first saw Mr. Robot, Utopia immediately popped into my head, which was as much about the music, the sounds, the colors, and the cinematography as it was the people or the plot.
Yeah, we'll have to give that a try. Utopia was not on my radar at all, but if it's anything half as gorgeous as Mr. Robot.
Yeah, you're really going to have to mean it.
Yeah.
Carlos just put himself out on the line for us, and we appreciate that. Because saying, as much as we love Mr. Robot, that anything is as good as Mr. Robot is a tall order to fill.
All right, well, speaking of which, let's officially start spoiling the final episode of this season of Mr. Robot. Malango, let's start with you, man. Walk us through your thoughts on it.
Mind blown. Craziness, and I can't wait till season 2. I'm still on the ropes with some things, but I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. This is basically what you guys had said before. This is Fight Club, the television series, and I think I love that part of it.
What's interesting is I wonder if going into the second season, because it wears its Fight Clubbiness on its sleeve the entire first season, right down to in the next to last episode, when Tyrell walks in, they're playing in a piano version of "Where Is My Mind," the song that was at the end. The mission is the same. I think it would be interesting. I mean, my guess is they will go on and find more of their own stories for us to follow. But the fact that it can so so casually, be all like, yeah, no, we're giving these winks and nods because we want you to know that we know we're doing Fight Club. It would be interesting to see them try on some other movies as well.
Well, actually, what I just started to think this instant is one of the things that the hacker community is often, especially the security end of the hacker community, which is what Mr. Robot is about. One of the things people are often obsessed with is the nature of identity. Like identity theft. How do I appropriate someone's identity? How do I pretend to be someone else's identity? How do I hide my own identity? How do I assume other identities? And what is Fight Club but a meditation on the nature of identity?
Well, and keep in
mind. So
mind,
when I look at season 1 of Mr. Robot and I see them, in retrospect, almost too obviously pointing to that, I think what they're saying is, we've started with this exploration of what identity means. And I'm very curious to see not even just what other movies they play with, but what other themes about identity they can move to in the second season. And I think that final shot where we see the lady hacker, who is now a gentleman, get out of a limo and go into a party and
time
sit
hacker,
down,
yeah,
and he's entirely doesn't care about time anymore. And we're like, twin, same person, who is this? All of a sudden, I think that's pointing towards this is the story of identity we're going to tell in this next season.
Well, and what's fascinating is that this has all been very much Elliot's story. But now that we've finished this first season, and it's been a very satisfying journey through Elliot's fractured psychosis, right? I almost am I'm not done with Elliot, but I wouldn't mind seeing a whole lot more exploration. I mean, they've got so much fertile territory. I think each of those hackers have really interesting stories that we can follow, and Elliot can be a much smaller part of the second season, and I think they'll still have an incredibly compelling drama. As far as what happened during this episode, obviously the big scene, the reason that it was delayed was the employee of Evil Corp committing suicide live on the air. I can understand. It totally makes sense why they would delay that. I'm glad that it wasn't exactly on the nose for that.
Yeah, it was not. It was a disturbing scene. It was not so similar to real life that it was upsetting.
Correct. But I think it merited pretty much exactly a 1 week delay.
That's my word.
Yeah. Oh, merited.
I think it brushwooded.
I think it M-worded. Yeah. The transformation. Now, on paper, what's her name? The blonde chick. Her. If you told me, like, yeah. So anyway, the last 2 episodes, she suddenly joins Evil Corporation. It would be kind of an eye roll type thing. And yet, the way they've told her story and put her in that position, and that she is clearly the pet or toy of the CEO of Evil Corporation, I'm buying it for now. And I think, she finds herself in and especially it's because she gives voice to what I'm wondering. Like, why on earth would they do that? Why on earth would they have her? That makes no sense. And so she says to the CEO, why on earth am I here? This makes no sense. And then, he just pats her on the head basically and tells her to buy new shoes. I'm buying all this.
Olago, are you buying it?
No, yeah, I'm totally buying it. I like where she's been placed, because it is like that voice of reason, like, why is she doing this when she knows they're like so evil? But then, like, I think she even makes a comment where she's like, it's because I have to. When she's like in the shoe store, and the guy's like, how can you work for them? And she kind of like snaps and kind of like, because I have to. Like, it's my job. Like, I have
That's
to do
a great moment, though, when she when she goes full robot and she goes, I think you've forgotten your place, and I want to try the Pradas next. And it's like, there's a little taste of, kind of Darth Vader becoming everything he hates, What else happened? We have the big kind of meltdown moment where the Times Square thing was visually cool. It veered dangerously close to silly for me.
Well, see, I felt like Angela's story went close to silly, and the fact that she says what I was thinking that you mentioned, why am I here? Why this doesn't make any sense, is the only thing that saved it for me. Like, jury's still out on that for me. Even the snapping in the shoe store is like, oh, okay, so now she's less interesting because she's just like, that's a told story. So I'm waiting for something else to happen there, right? I think they're setting me up to feel that way. Times Square thing just felt like a dream sequence, even though it wasn't a dream sequence.
Yeah.
I think it was trying to really shock you into what happens when he realizes he's Mr. Robot, and now you know that he's Mr. Robot, and they're talking out in Times Square in front of a bunch of people. How uncomfortable is that? Like, I think it was just playing with me that way.
Yeah.
Somebody said very Vanilla Sky-ish. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I did rather enjoy, and again, very Fight Clubby, the whole coffee shop scene where they showed him choking
Right, that
himself.
was a less uncomfortable version because you're like, oh, it's just coffee shop, right?
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it immensely, and can't wait to see what's next. Definitely, and I'll say it again. Go rewatch that scene with Tyrell's wife through that lens, and it's a lot of fun, even though it's almost certainly wrong. Okay, good news, Christy Cates. We're gonna move to start spoiling Rick and Morty. There we go. Christy, are you back?
I am back. I was making up conversations that I wasn't hearing, so that was interesting.
You're like, so basically the whole time
Were you
we were
bad
like,
lip reading us?
Yeah.
The whole.
According to Christy, the whole conversation is like, so what do you think is the cutest thing about Christian Slater? How dreamy is he?
I wish you would have narrated it and recorded it, and then we could put that out as a bonus audio track for people. Alternate audio. So Rick and Morty, Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, introduced us to Tiny Rick.
Tiny Rick. I guess it says introduced. I have the feeling that's the only time we're ever going to see Tiny Rick.
Still an introduction if you only meet somebody once.
That's true. Malengo, you have not seen this episode, is that right?
I haven't seen this episode. Nope.
Christy, are you watching Rick and Morty?
Nope.
Okay,
Not
so it's
yet.
just us chickens here.
Who cares? Tiny Rick.
Okay, you go first. You go first because I have thoughts I don't want to.
All I have to say is Tiny Rick. Okay, no, this was another solid episode. Kept me on the hook. Loved it because what they do so well in this is say, like, we know you know what this trope is, and we're going to acknowledge that up front. It's similar to what we're talking about, Mr. Robot, where they say what you're thinking to you to avoid the criticism.
Where they have like basically a table pitch.
Yeah.
And
so when
he calls it out.
Summer says, like, oh, why don't you become a young person and get, like, what's funny about that is you're like, oh, that's obviously, making fun of a trope. And then Rick says, like, pretty specific pitch there, Summer. And you're like, ha, ha, ha. That's funny because they're making fun of how specific they got with it. And then it turns out that is the pitch of the episode because the episode is about that. And so they don't back away. What you would normally see is like, ha, 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 that's funny. And the episode goes off somewhere else. But they're like, nope, we're going to stick to that very specific pitch that we make fun of because we think it's funny.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. In the moment, as I was watching it, I remember definitely thinking it was one of the weakest episodes of the season.
Which is saying it's great.
Oh yeah, no,
right?
they're all great. They're
Obviously,
all great, but certainly on the weaker side of the spectrum. And yet, 6-7 hours later, as I've digested it, there's some great imagery in there. I think the whole idea of I actually this is one of the rare cases where I think that what are the parents' names? Why am I blanking on it?
Especially in this episode where we hear their names over and over and over.
Jerry
the
and
parents
Beth.
have the stronger storyline.
Say it
I
again.
think.
Beth and Jerry.
Beth and Jerry. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. It's hard to think and talk at the same time.
It's funny. You say that the parents have the stronger storyline because they have the stronger story in this one because of the marriage counseling. And there's some really great marriage counseling jokes. And anybody who's getting married is going to laugh at the jokes. But I remember that almost not at all. When I think of this episode, I think of Tiny Rick. I think of Tiny Rick dancing. I think of that idea that, like, Rick can only, like, cry out for help, that he is trapped when Tiny Rick is doing his art.
Right.
And that is our own cries for help, and what a great metaphor and layered metaphor. I forget about the whole marriage counseling part of it.
I think that was definitely the stronger story because the Tiny Rick thing was a one-note joke. It's Rick, but he's a kid, and then that's.
I didn't think it was one note at all. I thought they went great places.
Okay, I don't know. I thought it was fascinating, the idea of getting marriage counseling by having the terrible representation of it, and then the only really big surprise we got in that whole episode was that moment when Jerry puts muscular Jerry into the brain scanner,
which was hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
but then when he tries to up the game, it just turns into him loving himself with a T-shirt of himself.
Yeah, congratulatory nonsense. I think I don't know. I'm gonna watch it again, see how I feel. But it's a solid episode. Great storytelling as always. But to my surprise, I think the best part of the story was the Jerry and Beth.
Oh, that's funny. That is to my surprise too, because
I'm wrong.
No. I mean, I that is not what I enjoyed the most.
Yeah,
out of it. But I
Awesome.
think that says a lot about our marriages.
To each other.
That's just a joke you make because the words make sense.
Coach
I don't even know what that means. Oh, okay, yeah. Let's go back to that. And that's the brilliance of Rick and Morty is like even after they've given you a solid episode like that, you get to the post-credit scenes and they're like, we're just going to give you like a whole new thing.
Just a diatribe, a standalone diatribe.
Really? You call himself Coach Ferrato?
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to The Shield?
Yes, The Shield, Season 7, Episode 5, wherein Vic Mackey's machinations close it upon him. I feel like I'm saying the same description every week.
Yeah. Well, it's all one big story.
He does. We get a big advance with Andrea's story. I can't remember her actual name.
That's fine. Ice agent chick.
Yeah, so she's the ice agent chick in so many ways. No, I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Again, words made sense arranged in a way, and I said that.
That's fine.
So she is an immigration agent, and they find out in the previous episode that she is under Pezuela's sway, and so they all get worried about that, and he confronts her about it, and very Vic Mackey style, like he's trying to be the honest player in a dishonest game, and we think she's giving him the whole truth, but I guess he doesn't have anything to lose by telling her.
You're talking about that final sequence, right?
Yeah.
When he breaks into her house and finds the file on himself and
she tries
her.
to flirt with him.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted some time alone, you could have just asked.
Well,
but
yeah,
that part was weird.
Yeah, that's I don't know. That I feel
guess.
like she's sort of female Vic Mackey in a way, where it's like she plays tough with the boys, and that's the way Vic Mackey would make a joke when he's got a gun pointed at him. So does she. But
Olivia, that's her name. Olivia.
Here's what my favorite part of this episode. And by the way, Malango, Katie, have you guys or Christy? God, I'm sorry, Christy Cates. I lived in Katy, Texas, growing up, and so I keep wanting to say the word Katie. Have either of you guys watched The Shield? Do you guys?
No? Yeah, I've seen it twice.
Okay. All right.
So what do you think of the machinations of the Armenians in Season 7?
I think you're pulling my leg.
I haven't seen it recently, so everything's kind of
tough.
meshing together.
Well, it's tough for me watching it every week to remember what happened. I've talked about this before. What happened in the episode I just watched yesterday?
Yeah.
Because it has now become over 7 seasons, but especially in this season, one long skein of threads, not even just one thread, but a whole rope of threads.
Let's go in order. To me, the most significant thing is at the beginning when you had that local politician who got killed, and both Vic and Aceveda have dirty hands on this. And this is what I love, because this is the moment that Aceveda completely loses the high ground. He can't even pretend like he's over Vic. This is the moment that he realizes that he is just as exposed and just as in the mix and just as dirty as Vic. I mean, minus the murder part. But all of a sudden, like, think about how this show started with Aceveda as the holy warrior and Vic
now
as the
Vic
devil.
has essentially hoodwinked him into murder.
Yes.
To being an accessory to murder.
Correct, right? And so he's in it. They've met in the middle. And meanwhile, we're seeing, I don't want to call it the redemption of Vic Mackey, but we're seeing him take actions that indicate that he genuinely wants a legacy of having done the right thing so he can sleep at night. And it's only seeing Vic through the reflection of Shane's behaviors that you realize Vic Mackey maybe does have a heart, maybe does really want to do the right thing in the end, and maybe thought he was doing the right thing when he killed, cold-blooded murder, killed the spy.
And as Gardaki starts to rise into our view as being competent,
right,
and the one who really does know how to do the right thing in any situation, and Shane is now playing his normal Shane role, which is like, if things aren't going to work out my way, I'm going to manipulate them until I think they will.
Right.
I'll do anything, including throw a grenade in somebody's lap, even if I love them. He's now trying to sway Gardaki and put the knife in Vic's back. And we, at this point, don't know what Gardaki thinks, because Gardaki, very much loyal to Vic, but just not giving Shane a reaction.
Well, he seems to see the wisdom in it, because he goes to Vic and says, "Hey, I'm supposed to try to get you to
he's
do
fair,
this."
right? He's above board. He's like, look, we all know about Shane, and Shane did this, but we still don't know what Gardaki thinks.
Yeah. And although it does sound like he's leaning towards, being on Shane's, seeing the wisdom of what Shane's saying, the practical side of things.
that's the brilliance of the way Gardaki is written in this season is he sees all sides all the time.
Yeah.
That's what makes him so competent. It's like, well, I get what Shane's doing, but I also get what Vic's doing.
Well, he's the peacemaker in this four-legged. Speaking of which, great seeing Julian step forward with her harebrained scheme to figure out how to rescue the girl and yet not tip off any of the gangs that there's informants. And Julian, he holds his own as a member of the strike team. Comes
Absolutely.
in, plays a pivotal role. They end up, it's great to see that little adventure pay off. And then as we get to the end, that also kind of establishes Olivia as kind of female Vic Mackey, and we got more progress on both on the whims side with like the fact that she's wrestling with the fact that her hiding her disease.
Our procedural was Cleavon trying to come in and embarrass Whims
right
into lessening his case, which worked.
Yep.
Like he's not going to get the death penalty now, and that runs perfectly parallel with Wagenbach's story about trying to figure out if this kid is really going to end up being a serial killer, and his real motivation for stopping the kid is that he wants to go down as the guy who stopped a serial killer.
Yeah, but again,
I think it's a valid motivation.
Yeah,
but
that's not the hugest surprise though. That seems very Dutch.
No, totally. And so you wonder, like, well, but will he be able to see the forest from the trees when he's got this big goal that he really, he's Wagenbach. He really wants to make this happen. He wants to see it, even if it isn't there. And even if the kid's smart enough to fool him into doing something wrong. And then he goes to Cleavon for advice.
Yeah, well, and that's the big twist, right? He brings in he calls in favors, he gets an old friend who's a psychologist, a specialist on that, and gets mixed reactions. Can't really say for sure, but then he goes to Cleavon because Cleavon's got nothing to lose at this point. He's not going to get the death penalty. He knows he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and basically, Wagenbach says, "Well, you want to spend an afternoon here or back at prison?" And he's like, and watches the tape. And then that moment where he goes like, I've seen that look where in the mirror, that big punch at the end.
And we're mid-season, right? This is episode 5 of 13. So we're not quite at mid-season. And we have got to the point where, once again, if you wanted to be cynical, Vic Mackey has put himself in an unwinnable situation. He doesn't have the box, but even if he had the box, he couldn't give the box back because giving the box back puts him in a bad position in this way and that way, and there's no way out.
Well, here's the thing. Vic Mackey is at his best when he is making big promises to people. When he is the wish granter, that's when he is at his best. And for the first time, he now has that leg up on Olivia. He knows that she's under the thumb of what's his name. He knows that she feels trapped, and he is able to do his Vic Mackey routine, cast his spell, saying, and even ends saying like, well, guess what? You just lucked out and got the best person on the earth to fix this for you. So in many ways, we're seeing him, the universe bending to his will yet again.
Directed by Michael Chiklis, this episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good
Directed
deal.
by Vic himself.
Oh, wait. We also, speaking of which, Michael Chiklis' daughter, it turns out that she's
Cassidy's
the one.
a drug dealer.
Yeah, she's the drug dealer.
I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah. No, I thought that was great.
Basically, that was like, I know where this is going.
This is the first time that I have wanted to watch past where you are. And I don't know, maybe we could, you wait until the night before. I don't know.
Otherwise, I forget.
All right.
What's going on?
See, I've been
that is
so
it.
worried
I mean, you got
to say anything and not spoil.
What's that?
As I've been so worried to not say anything and spoil something just because it all blends together.
Yeah,
I would have just
and you don't know which episode's got which things in it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a reason that I've started watching along with Tom because I do not want to slip up a single sentence.
Well, because you go ahead, Christy.
Oh, I just laughed. Sorry.
No, you spoiled Wims's disease, but not in a way that made it clear what would happen.
Yeah,
like that's one of the few times that you've actually said something before I knew it. And I was like, oh, she's got a disease. Okay.
Well, that's the problem.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And then I thought she was going to be dead, and she hasn't died yet. So I was wrong about that. That was a couple seasons back.
Well, and that was, I think that's part of the reason that I started watching is because I took something you said that out of context and thought it was a farther thing. And so
it's easy to do. Well, thank you guys for hanging around. I know we spoiled a lot of stuff that you guys haven't been watching, but it was awesome to have you with us. Where can folks find more Milongo?
Yeah, definitely follow me on Twitter at Rambling Mango. Like I said earlier in the last show, I will be starting a show soon centered around like movie draft related topics. So I'm really excited about that. And yes, follow me and watch it.
Rambling Mango.
Yep.
On Twitter. Go
The mango
follow
that
him.
likes to
Christy
ramble.
Cates, you got a new show coming up as well.
I do. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch it. I know you guys were really busy today, but it's going to be called Monday Music News. It stems from I've got years of music writing for various magazines, Electronic Musician, Remix, some regional magazines. So I wanted to kind of bring that to a video format, and I understand I talked to Jackie today, we're going to be working to get it on diamondclub.tv, so it's going to be fun. It's music news, it's a little bit of film news, like record release updates, all that kind of stuff, what musicians are doing in the studio, where they're touring, where the festivals are. So that's going to be really cool. And of course, Christy Cates on Twitter, and then just ChristyCates.com with K's.
With K's, Christy and Kate's, both the K's. Follow her now. And that's it. You've been spoiled. Go take a rest. You deserve it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.